as well, because just before coming here, I was in sharing a panel with people from different traditions and talking about pluralistic society, the common challenges, and how we have to deal with our spiritualities and the dialogue and what is important for us to achieve when it comes to speak about truth, when it comes to speak about justice, that all topics are important. And there is one thing which was said this morning, is really to be able to be committed at the local level. So these are big and very wide topics, but at the end of the day, we are not only here to listen to theoretical views on such topics, on citizenship and changes and loyalty, but it's really to translate this into our daily life where we are in order to change and to reform our societies for the better. So let me start with an introduction and few points dealing with the topic. And what I'm asking you to do, contrary to what was done right now, and I understand because it's a fundraising and it's really to push you to participate with your heart and with your mind, I'm asking you during my talk not to applaud and not to shout Allahu Akbar. Whatever is your take on what I'm saying, it's known now in the States that it's a personal fatwa during my talks. But I want to explain that, because some were saying, I had scholars coming and say, how could you say that this is haram? I'm not saying that. I'm saying that when you are listening to a talk and you are happy with what is said, the most important thing, and when you are happy with what is said, is really to think about it and to enter into your own heart and mind and to try to ponder over what is said. When you clap, it's like you are in a political meeting and you react immediately. And I would say that this is not what I'm expecting from people. You come to listen to a speech, you hope that it will be interesting. I want the audience also to just take the time to think about what is said. And by the way, Allahu Akbar is not a slogan for ideas. It's deeper than that. For the Muslims who is a believer, it means God is the greatest. It's beyond everything. So sometimes you have to say this in your heart, in your mind, and just, it's better to be silent and meditate on what you are listening to than to react in such a way. So for 40 minutes, 45 minutes, 1 hour, silence, listening, meditating. If you are happy, that's good, alhamdulillah. If you are not, we'll have questions and answers afterward. We'll be able to speak your mind. So the topic is citizenship, loyalty, and changes. And what I want to do as an introduction is to look at the topic in exactly the other way. It's to go from changes to loyalty and to citizenship, and to explain why I'm doing this and why I'm trying to tackle the issue. I think that the title is good. It's helping us to get a good understanding of some of the topics, but I would start with changes and go to from changes to loyalty and then to citizenship. And what I want to do is really to think about all this from our understanding as American citizens, for example, our understanding as Muslims, and then also the common ground that we have with our fellow citizens in the society. So it's within and outside that I want to tackle the issue, within the Muslim universe of reference, but also outside with what is our society, what are our societies, what are the values, and what are the principles on which we have to rely when you speak about, for example, citizenship. Let me first start with changes. And I think that it's important to be able to get a sense of what is happening in our societies today. Because changes, this is not new. All the societies are changing and have changed. Even in all this discussion, and I'm tackling the issue in the last book, The Quest for Meaning, on one chapter that where I'm dealing with tradition and modernity. We have this perception that tradition is static, is not moving, and modernity is about change. In fact, that's not true. There is no tradition without changes. Every single tradition is changing from within. This is the very essence of a tradition. There are roots, there are principles, but it's always changing. And in fact, even modernity is a tradition. It's coming from somewhere. It's following a tradition. So when you have, the Enlightenment and everything which came after the 18th century, the 19th century, and all this construct of modernity and modernist is a tradition. So for us, it's wrong not to consider evolution. And if you come to the Islamic principles and what we call Islamic sciences, and all the scholars from the very beginning, they were dealing with change. And what you were saying between Mecca and Medina, this was a change between a culture and Muslims having the same principles in Mecca and the same principles in Medina, but there was a change, and a change in culture. The people were not acting, behaving the same in Medina than in Mecca. It was quite clear that this was a cultural change. Still the same tradition, but cultures and geography and societies are changing. Today, this is the case in our society, but there is something which is new, which is the pace, the rhythm. What is happening in our society is that in this world, in our time of globalization, it's going very fast. And the changes are now what we experience over 1 century, now we can have it in 10 years. It's very quick. And there are 4 factors that are explaining the changes in our societies today that are helping us to understand and should help us to understand factors or causes why today in our societies changes are perceived as problematic. As I told you, the speed, it's an important factor. Because when you are managing, you understand that it's changing, yes, but I can manage. I know what is happening. This is a natural change. But in time of globalization now, our old milestones and the universe of reference are changing in a way which is really challenging our own tradition from within. So globalization is shaking not only the Muslims, but the West, these societies. In the United States of America, in Canada, in Europe, it's very quick. In my country, in Switzerland, we have a problem with globalization and with new entities. For example, one of the leading party is gaining ground in Switzerland by saying, we don't want to be integrated into the European Union. It's too big for us. So it's the perception that our power is lost. So for someone coming from the States, the EU too big for us. So what is Houston in the United States of America? So the perception that it's now the authority power are shifting, that we are losing the universe of reference. Globalization is doing this. So the political power that was in the nation state now, it's as if with the new economic order is shifting. Decisions are taken not where we are, not at the level of the state, the nation state, but beyond that. And this globalization has an impact on our universes of reference. And add to this, the globalized economy and something that we all experience. Whatever is your take on your status as American citizens, if you want to isolate from the society because you think that as Muslims, the only way is to protect yourself from the surrounding society, you will see that in your living room you will have the world culture entering your house. So with all the new means of communication, internet and all this that could be very effective, quite interesting sometimes, and alternative ways of being informed, now the world culture is everywhere. So world culture is coming up with globalization. You go, as I was a few years ago, in Yemen, and you go in the mountain in Yemen, very far from everything, and you would see in the textbooks the photograph of a Hollywood movie star. In Yemen, this is globalization. And the
the roots of our tradition are shaken. So you have to deal with this. So globalization is spreading around a sense of insecurity about our values and our traditions. And this has nothing to do with Islam, is universal. A universal state of insecurity. That our old principles, what we refer to, is lost somewhere. So we have to deal with this. When you deal in a daily basis with your fellow citizen in Houston, in this society, that you are not dealing with someone who is just looking at you as someone who is new. You are representing something which is changing the old parameters. The understanding that we have a homogeneous culture, for example, which is not true. It was never homogeneous, but it was felt so, and now it's changing. The second thing, which is a direct consequence of that, is that when we come to the States, for example, compared to Europe, and if you take the Canadian experience, historical experience, or the American historical experience, is that we consider the United States of America as a country of immigration. And this is how it was built. And now for the first time, and no one was expecting this in such a way, and especially for us coming from Europe, that immigration becomes a problem now in the United States of America. It's a new problem. And you have people speaking in Arizona about how we are going to deal with Latinos that are coming outside and threatening the real balance of power in our society. In an immigrant country, immigration is becoming a problem. We have to protect ourselves. And at the same time, in the United States of America, as in Europe, as in all the Western countries, there is one objective fact: no survival without immigrants. So we are scared of them entering, and you know that we can't survive without them entering. We need immigrants to come to work. We need immigrants because our population is becoming old, and this is the reality in all the Western society. So we know this in America, that we need people coming from South America. We need them, but there is a cultural resistance. And we have political parties playing with this fear and criminalizing the immigrants while we need them. So we have many immigrants becoming underground now. And we are exploiting them. So sometimes it's even new slavery. You will not have the paper, you will not have the document, but we are going to make you work with almost no salary. New exploitation, playing with rules and resistance, and I think that this is also a very important factor. So immigration is a factor where people are working or instrumentalizing immigration in order to shed suspicion on the other, the foreigner. And don't get it wrong here. If you have political parties, if you have think tanks, if you have intellectuals, or you have lobbies in this country, always portraying the Muslims as the other, as the people who are the always ongoing immigrants, not really American, is to connect Islam with the foreign religion. Professor Jackson recently, I was struck by what he said, and I think he's completely true, that the people who were around all this business in New York against the community center and Park 51, and they were attacking, and they are now attacking the President Barack Obama. You will listen to them and you will hear that they are not saying that he's an African American. Because if you come here and you say it's an African American, it's an American, because in America, to be an African American is to be an indigenous American. You're not going to speak about integration to the African American. Don't tell us this, us. You may speak about some people who just came. So the way to put him outside the picture and to connect him as a potential Muslim, because he's a crypto-Muslim for them, while he may repeat that he's a Christian. And you remember Colin Powell saying, what's wrong with being a Muslim in this country? This is exactly the point. How do they call him? An Arab. Not an African American, an Arab. So an Arab is not one of us. Look at the shift. Look at the shift. And they play on this fear, Islam